references on decorations for Halloween and Día de los Muertos. Día de los Muertos is the Day of the Dead, and it's often celebrated in Mexico on November 1st and November 2nd, right after Halloween. Halloween is a European tradition that comes from All Hallows Eve. And All Hallows Eve and Día de los Muertos are very similar, where they're both focused on remembering the dead and those who have passed away. One of the common decorations for Día de los Muertos is the calavera, the sugar skull. So for today's craft, we are going to make 3 centerpieces of Halloween decorations: a black cat and a witch, which are very common Halloween decor, and your calavera, the sugar skull. You can also make a couple bats that you can use to tape on your windows or your walls for additional decorations. We did have a limited number of kits available with all the supplies to create this craft. If you're an Elmhurst resident, you can give us a call to see if a kit is available to reserve, and we'll book a time for your Makery reservation to use the equipment. If you weren't able to get a kit, no worries, you can still follow the video. You just need to supply your own materials. Included in the kit was 4 pieces of 12-inch by 12-inch black cardstock. This is medium weight, 80-pound cardstock. And that's what we use to cut out the designs. And the inside of my calavera is just a sheet of paper that's 20 pounds. You'll get to choose what color sheet you want from a selection. I used light blue, but we have a couple different colors you can pick out. Also in the kit are going to be some jars. So we included 3 jars for your 3 centerpieces. These are 1.5 ounce jars. They're about 2 inches tall and 1 inch in diameter. And inside the jars is already a piece of floral foam. So we went ahead and trimmed this down and inserted it into your jar. And this is what your decoration is going to stick into. Also in your kit are 3 dowel rods that are 1/8 inch thick. And these are what we glue your design to stick into your centerpiece. And 3 pieces of ribbon about 10 inches long to wrap your jar with. You're also going to need some glue. We have hot glue guns in the Makery. That's what I'm using for today's video. We also have glue sticks. So whatever glue is your preference, you want to make sure you have glue that's going to hold up the dowel rods for you. In addition to these supplies, you are going to need a Cricut cutting machine or a Silhouette Cameo if you prefer. We have the Cricut makers here in the Makery, and then we also circulate the Cricut Explore Air 2. The designs for this craft are in JPEG and SVG format. So the video is going to show you how to prepare them in the Cricut design space and how to cut them using the Cricut. But if you do prefer the Silhouette Cameo, you can use those same JPEGs in the Silhouette Studio software. Since we're cutting with paper, I recommend using the light grip cut mats. These are blue, and these are the Cricut cut mats. And you're also going to need a scraper to clean off your cut mat, the roller to help secure your paper to the cut mat, the weeding pick to clean up your design, and the spatula to lift off your design without ripping from the cut mat. So these are all the supplies and tools that you need, and we're going to show you how to create this craft in just a couple seconds. The first thing we're going to do for our project is to prepare our designs. For this project, we're using Cricut Design Space. Cricut Design Space is the software that the Cricut machines use in order to prepare your design and cut them with the Cricut machines. It's free to download and install, and in order to use it, you do need to have a Cricut account, which is free to create. The laptops in the Makery have Cricut Design Space pre-installed, but you will need to create an account if you're new to Cricut. So you're going to hit sign in. If you have an existing account, you can go ahead and sign in, or you can click Create Cricut ID to create a new account. Once you're signed in, you're going to hit New Project to open a blank design document to work off of. And it starts with a blank canvas. If you click where the 0 and 0 meet, you can get the grid patterns, which I personally like because I can see my design a little bit better. For this project, we have designs that you're welcome to use and replicate. We have a bat, a cat, a witch, and a calavera, a sugar skull. for this Halloween Dia de los Muertos themed craft, but you're welcome to create your own design if you want. So whether you're using our designs or have your own, what you want to do is choose upload. This will open the upload feature where you can upload JPEGs, GIFs, PNGs, bitmaps, SVGs, or DXF files that you found on the internet or created on your own using programs like Adobe Illustrator or Inkscape. So we're going to choose upload image, and we're going to choose browse. And in my case, I am using the files stored on our flash drive under the Cricut Design Space folder, and I'm going to start with the bat. So we have to do one at a time. We're going to do the bat, the cat, and the witch first. So first the bat, we're going to hit open. And when you upload your image, it's going to ask if you're using a simple, moderate, or complex design. These designs that we have for you are single colored, so we're going to choose simple. If you have a design that's very multicolored, you would want to choose complex. We're going to hit continue. And what we need to do is erase the background. Even though the background was white, it is still reading the white color. So if I don't do anything to this image and hit continue, my cut image, which is what I need for this project, is going to be a rectangle. So if you get a preview of a cut image and it looks nothing like your design, that means you need to go back and clean it up some more. So to clean it up, we have a few tools. We have the select and erase tool, that's the default. We have an eraser tool, and we have a crop tool. I don't need to crop anything, and I shouldn't need the erase tool. All I should need is my default select and erase pointer. And if I click on any of the white space, it should delete it. And if you have the blue and white checkered background, that means that color is no longer there. So the white that we had originally has been erased. So all we have is the black silhouette. So if we hit continue, we should now see our cut image on the left here that looks like the bat. That's the one we want to select. When you click on it, you should have this green border around it. The print then cut is if we were using the printer, which we are not using the copier for this design. If you want, you could rename it or give it some tags. I'm going to leave it as bat, and I'm going to choose upload. And now you can see how my image is uploaded in the recent uploads. The last one we're going to do is the calavera, the sugar skull. We're going to choose upload image and browse. And the reason this one is unique is we created this one using Inkscape, and it's actually an SVG file instead of a JPEG. So if we click on calavera and hit open, it should automatically read it. We didn't have to do any cleanup work, and that's because this was already designed as an SVG file, which is a file type ready to cut with. And we're going to keep it as calavera and hit upload. So here are the 4 images we're going to work with today. I'm going to click on all of them. Every time I click on them, you should see this green select box around it. So there's my calavera, my witch, my cat, and my bat. And I'm going to hit insert image. Once it loads, you should have all of your images in your design space. I'm going to zoom out so we can see, and they're all clumped together in one pile. So I'm going to click away, and this will deselect all the image. And I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to click one at a time, and I'm going to click and drag to separate them. The calavera is already sized for our project. We want to make sure that we don't exceed 11 inches in width. We are going to be cutting on sheets of paper that are 12 by 12. And we're going to do 2 of these. So we're going to copy, right click, copy, right click, paste. And there's 2 of them.
And you'll notice for my calavera, I color coded them. I recommend color coding them because then you will have different cut mats already separated. What the machine does is if you have color coded items, it will separate them. So that way you're cutting red together, blue together, black together, and so forth. And so what I'm actually going to recommend doing is that we change the color of the cat to something different, like maybe yellow. And we're going to size the width to be 5 inches. We're going to copy this one because for our project, we need 2 of everything. But we also need it to be mirrored. So I'm going to select one of my copies. I'm going to go to flip, and I'm going to flip horizontally. So for the witch, what we're actually going to do is adjust the height to be 5 inches. And then we can copy and paste. We are going to change the color of both of these. We'll use green for these. One of these we're going to flip. And then we're going to organize them kind of next to each other. So the last thing is the bats. So what I recommend doing is copying your bats. You're going to get sheets of paper that are 12 by 12. So for instance, the cats, if I have them on one sheet of paper right now, they're just shy of 11 inches wide and 7 inches tall, which means on a 12 by 12 sheet of paper, I still have about 4 inches below the cats to cut other things, which is where I'm going to cut my bat. So I'm gonna take my bat, I'm gonna make it the same exact color as my cat. I'm gonna bring it pretty close to my cat, and I'm gonna change the height to 4. Oh, I apologize. I'm going to change my width to 5. I'm gonna copy it and set it up next to each other. I'm going to copy my bat one more time just to make sure I have a bat to use with the witch. So I'm going to set this down below. And so I'm just going to select all 4 of these. And my width and height is 11 by almost 11. And what I'm going to do is attach them. And what attaching does is it groups them together so it's ready to cut. So when I go to make this, it's not going to shift them around. So I have my bat here. So what I want to do next is align my witches. Well, I have them really close together. Let me separate them a little bit more. So my witches are a little bit, just a little bit more than 10 inches tall and about 8 inches in width, which means I have about 3 inches of space to use for the bats. So what I'm going to do is take this bat. This time I'm going to rotate it. And I'm going to make the height 2.5 inches. I'm going to change the color to match the green for the witches. I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste so I have 2 bats. And if I select them all together, I should be at around 11 inches for my width and 10 inches for my height. And I'm going to attach these so they're cut together. My calaveras should be good to go. And now my cats, my bats, and my witches. Before I move any further, I'm going to hit save. You always need to save your project. It will not auto-save. So if you're working on this from home, you want to save your project before you close out of Design Space and come to the Makery. Now that it's saved, what I can do is plug my computer into a Cricut machine and hit Make It. And it should show all of our designs separated by color. I recommend cutting the decorative skulls last. These take about 20 minutes to cut. So I recommend cutting all your other pieces first so we can glue and put those together while the sugar skulls are cutting. Now that my computer has connected to the Cricut Maker, it is time to determine what materials I am cutting with. Choosing your materials is how the machine knows what kind of blade pressure to use so it cuts properly. The black cardstock that we supplied for this project works best if you use the cardstock 80-pound setting. So what I'm going to do is choose Browse All Materials, go to Search All Materials, type the word cardstock, and choose the 80-pound medium cardstock for my materials.
Now that my designs are prepared in Cricut Design Space, I am ready to cut them using the Cricut machine. I am using the Cricut Maker today, and I have it set up and connected to my laptop. And for this project, we are going to be cutting in paper. So I recommend using the light grip cut mats. These are the cut mats that are blue. You can use a standard grip cut mat, but if it's too strong, it will rip the paper. So you do want to be careful with that. Also, the cut mats weaken over time. So if the mat is too weak, the paper can shift around. And we recommend using some masking tape in the corners to help hold it down. I also recommend having your scraper tool, spatula, weeding pick, and roller available. We have these in the Makery, so you can ask staff to borrow them and they'll hand these to you for your project. And then you're gonna follow the order of the cut mats on your computer. I recommend doing the decorative skull piece last because it will take 20 minutes to cut, and you can let it cut that piece while you prepare your others and glue them into your jars. The first piece it's telling me to cut is the solid skull insert that goes inside the decorative piece. And for that, you get your choice of what color paper you want to use. If you want to use white paper, what you can do is take colored pencils or markers afterwards and color in your skull to be multicolored. Or you can keep it simple with a 2-color design and just do a solid sheet of paper. The paper I'm using in this video is 20-pound paper for the solid skull piece. So you want to make sure you set your settings on the computer accordingly for whatever you're cutting. So I'm going to move my tools to the side. The cut mats have a protective plastic on top. You're just going to set this down. And on your screen, it shows you where your designs line up. Normally, they line up in the upper left corner. So I'm going to take my sheet of paper and I'm going to line it up in the upper left corner. I know it's a little hard to see because my sheet of paper is the same color as the cut mat, but there's my upper left corner and my design's going to line up on the sheet here. You're then going to take your cut mat. There are guides to feed your cut mat through. And there's a blinking arrow button. This is the load and unload button. And once it's loaded in and you know you have the right paper settings on the computer, you can hit the Cricut button that's blinking on the machine to start the cut. Your computer is going to give you a progress bar. So this one is pretty simple. It should just take a couple seconds. And it's done. So the arrow button is going to blink again. That's to unload. And there we have our cut. You'll see when you actually do this project, you'll see cut lines in the paper. And if we start at a corner and gently peel. Again, this is paper. We want to make sure we don't tear it, so we want to be gentle. We can peel it away. And so this is the piece we don't need. This can go in the garbage. And I still have my skulls on the cut mat. To make sure I don't rip them, I recommend using the spatula. This allows you to get under your paper, so you can lift it up. And just like taking a pancake off of a frying pan, you can glide it through your cut mat to lift it up to avoid tearing. So these are our skull inside pieces. We're going to cut the black piece last, which goes on top of them. So we can set this aside. And your screen should move on to the next cut mat, which for me is the cats with the bats at the bottom. And I'm going to be using the 12 by 12 black cardstock for this. And for the cut settings, I recommend the medium cardstock 80 pound setting. It works really nice with this material. I'm gonna line it up so my cardstock matches. This is a little easier to do because your cut mat is 12 by 12 and your sheet of paper is 12 by 12. I made sure that the 80 pound medium cardstock setting was chosen on the computer. I'm gonna use my load button. And I'm gonna press the blinking cricket logo to start the cut. And you can sort of see that I missed one of the pieces that are inside the eye. So if there's ever any detail that's still stuck, you're gonna take your wood pick and you're gonna poke it out. Now, before we use this, we need to clean off the cut mat. So if you have any parts that are still stuck, that's where the scraper comes into handy. And you can take this over a garbage can or recycling bin if you want, or do it over your table. But you're gonna scrape all that extra cardboard off. So now at this point, I have all my pieces cut out besides the sugar skull, which is in the process of cutting. Again, this piece is gonna take about 20 minutes to cut. So I'm gonna kind of clean up my table, set this off to the side to continue cutting, and we're gonna start gluing our pieces together for decorative centerpieces. So while I wait for that, I'm gonna set up the rest of my other designs. So what the goal of this project is to take your two cutouts, sandwich them together with a dowel rod in the middle. And we're gonna use that as our centerpiece. And what I recommend doing is starting with a little piece of glue. I'm going to flip this around so you can see it a little bit better. Put a little piece of glue near the base in the center of the cat. Probably about 2 inches of glue. And stick your dowel rod to it. But now that I have my dowel rod in place, what I want to do is apply some glue along the edges of my cat. And I don't want to forget the tail. And some glue on the inside, on the top of that dowel rod. And place my cat over top of it. And line it up as best I can so it all lines up and has even edges. So what we did as part of the kit is give you 3 little teeny tiny jars. These are 1.5 ounce jars. They're about 2 inches tall and about 1 inch wide in diameter. And we filled it with a 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch floral foam square. So the idea is that if you take the lid off, you can use these jars as the piece for your centerpiece. And so to make it a little bit more decorative, so you just don't have this jar with foam in it, we gave you about 10 inches of black and white plaid ribbon. And you can take your jar and you can wrap the ribbon around. And kind of knot it in place. Or if you want, you can hot glue the ribbon in place. It's up to you. Whatever you think will look the most festive. And so there we have our little jar wrapped in plaid. And you're going to take your dowel rod with your decoration and stick it inside the foam. And so there's one piece. If you have any twine laying around, you can add some twine up at the top to cover the jar a little bit better, to look a little more festive. So this is what the calavera looks like when you unload it from the Cricut mat. This is the most intricate design we are working with today, so you want to make sure you are taking your time and being very careful with this. I recommend having the spatula and weeding tools readily available for this process, because it's going to be helpful to use these tools to get this off the cut mat without ripping. So the trick is to just work very slowly and patiently. I recommend starting in a corner and peeling away your extra off of the cut mat. But so now it's time for me to peel off the calavera. And so this is when I recommend having the spatula tool. You're gonna get under your calavera and you wanna be as gentle as possible, but basically you're going to unstick it from the cut mat. And it's very similar to how you flip a pancake. You're gonna get under and kind of push up. So I have one off. I'm gonna set this aside for just a second. And so what you'll see here is that some of my pieces are still stuck in my design. So that's when you're gonna take your pick and you're gonna help poke some of these designs out to clean up your cut. So now I have it mostly cleaned up. There are still a few pieces stuck in here. I'm not going to worry about them too much. But now that one's done, I'm going to gently set this aside and do the other. And what I want to make sure I show you, so parts of the design are still stuck on here. You want to make sure you clean off your cut mat before putting it away or using it again. And so to clean it off, I recommend grabbing one of the scraper tools. And you're going to scrape to get all these pieces off. So I have my sugar skulls cut out. The last thing to do is to glue them onto the solid outlines and then glue these together with my dowel rod in between. One of the reasons why I recommended possibly using white paper when you created your outline is so after you glue it together, you could take colored pencils or markers and color it in for a multicolor calavera. Or you can just keep it like a two-color like what I'm doing. And there I have my calavera. So if I grab my last jar with foam in it and stick it in, I have my calavera decoration. So hopefully if you follow the steps, you should have your 3 centerpieces, your cat, your witch, and your calavera, along with some cutout bats to decorate your windows and walls. If you liked this project and wanted to show us how you did, you can post about it on social media using the hashtag ElmhurstMakery or @AskElmhurst. We hope you enjoyed this craft and we look forward to future creations that you make down in the Makery.